Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll start the session for today. So till now we have discussed about the BPC related concepts and then planning related activities in web through EPM tab, and then data manager tab also we have discussed how to use different data manager packages and what are all the important data manager packages, how to load transaction data, master data and hierarchies into the BPC system. Today we will discuss about the work status, which is similar to workflow but with a different kind of workflow with respect to BPC system. In BPC, it's a combination of workflow with locking facility will be provided. So as I said, it is similar to workflow but not exactly the above workflow which we see in our ECC system. There is a little difference here. So we will see here how it will work and how the system will perform and all. In order to activate the work status, we are having two levels. One is at environment level. This is called environment level work status. In the administration section, under features, you have something called work status. So this is nothing but workflow in BPC along with locking facility. This work status, what we are defining here, is it at environment level, and whatever we are talking about data locking, it is at model level. So a combination of workflow at environment level and data locking at model level is totally called as work status in BPC system. So as we said, the data always resides at model level. So the locking happens at model level, and the settings towards the workflow process, how many levels are there and who is the responsible person, that will be decided at environment, which is at client specific. Once you define the environment level work status, it is applicable for all models. So what you will do it in model level settings is on which basis the data should be locked when we are moving from one work state to another work state, that will be decided by model level settings. So a combination of environment plus model level settings will be the work status in the BPC system. Now here we are having three statuses. Work status is nothing but, as I said, workflow. This we can define as many number of workflows as required. Here for our understanding purposes, we will take three statuses. One is unlocked status, and another is submitted, and third is approved status. So unlocked status is the first status provided by SAP BPC system. This should not be changed. And after that, any statuses, it is up to you. You can create additional work status or you can use the BPC provided one. Suppose if I am having say unit manager, and then upon unit manager there is a section manager, and upon section there is a department, upon department there is a division, and then there is a super division, and then it is finally by say budget section, and then it is locking. So like that, if you are having say 6 or 7 levels, you can define those levels. So whenever it is going to that particular individual, that status, he has to change it to the next level so that it will go to the next level approval process. So the statuses, whatever here given, you can define as per your requirement. But as I said, the first status should always be unlocked status in the BPC system, because it is standard provided by SAP BPC. And in the first status, in the unlocked status, SAP says the controlled by should be used only owner and manager. We'll discuss who is owner and who is manager. Before that, we'll discuss how it will control and all. Then we'll discuss on how we'll define who will be the owner and who will be the manager. And in the controlled by status, that means if the status of the present data is in the unlocked status, who is the responsible person who can change the data or who can edit the data? That person. And then who can change from unlocked status to next status? That is called the controlled by status. That means from this particular first state, who can send it to the second state? That is called controlled by status. If you see here in the first state, I said both owner and manager can move the status from one state to another state. Suppose if I am talking about owner, what is the next available state? It is submitted. So when I say controlled by owner, that means owner can submit from unlocked status to submitted. And manager, the next step he is available is manager status is approved. So from unlocked status, he can directly approve without being submitted by the owner. That option is also available. So manager, he can go to the next step which is available for him. Owner also he can select which is the next step available to him. Suppose here I am having 1, 2, 3 which is responsible by owners. Then first he has to go to first step, then second, then third. In a sequence it needs to move. Only manager has a right to jump any of the steps which is defined for owners, not the managers. First time it will be a little tricky from work status point of view, but once you understand the concept and once you see the demo and once you practice on your own, it will be easy to understand and work in the live implementations also. And then the next thing is permitted data entry methods. In BPC, whatever the data entry methods that are there, either through documents or through web reporting, all the documents level we have provided the status. If you see here, one is data manager. Yesterday in our previous class we discussed data upload, all those things will come from data manager packages through which we can enter the data into the BPC system. Another is journals. Manual entry is nothing but input templates. Another is comments and documents which we can upload. These are the permitted data entry methods. In these data entry methods, if you see here, all, manager, locked. These are the statuses which we are seeing. All means either owner or manager can enter the data. That means both the person has a capacity to enter the data in this particular status. If you see here, in the submitted state, only manager can enter the data and change the data. Once the data is submitted by the owner, he cannot change the data, only manager is allowed to change the data. That is what here it signifies. And the next step is locked. Once the manager says it is approved, then here in the permitted data entry methods we are saying it is locked. That means once manager says the data is approved, even the manager doesn't have a right to change it. If he want to change again he has to move from approved status to unlocked status, and again the workflow process needs to be triggered as per the required procedure which we have set up. So once the data is locked, nobody can edit the data. If they want, again they have to go back to the previous process, and from there only they can again rework and again submit in the workflow process. That is how these three sections will work. This is the statuses which we can define. Controlled by only first status requires owner and manager. All others according to your requirement you can keep it. And then the next thing is data entry methods. In BPC, what are all the data entry methods? At those levels, system is specifying who can enter the data in this particular work state. The data is there in this particular work state. Who can enter the data and edit the data? That is by manager or owner or both, or it is locked. Here the first line which I said, it is system provided, you cannot edit anything. It should be unlocked and it should be owner and manager, and then all the data entry methods should be possible by both owner and manager. Dinesh is having a question, could not understand submitted status controlled by owner, but owner cannot make changes. Yes, Dinesh, if you have worked in normal FI workflow, suppose I am the person who is originating the document and I have submitted the document. It will go to the manager approval. So when it is gone to manager approval, how can a owner be allowed to change the submitted data? That is why it is saying owner can submit the data, but manager only can edit the data. It's like normal, your normal FI workflow only, but there you will be defining it in a different fashion through ABAP, but here it is a different fashion, that's it. But the prime concept will be same workflow which you work in FI system or any other system wherever the process is. If you are from MM also, the MM workflow will happen. So if you are raising through PO, purchase order, then first one person will initiate the PR, and from initiation then it will go to PO, and from PO it goes to the approval process. So once he submits the PO, only the manager has a right to edit any information. The same way here also it happens. Got it, Dinesh? Okay. So this is the work status which we define at environment level, which is called client level definition, because for our environment is the client level. Whatever we are defining at client level, that means environment level only, which is the highest level in BPC system. And here when you want to add a new work status, you can add using this option. You can add some work status. As I said, controlled by either owner and manager, or only owner or only manager, depending upon your workflow requirement, you can maintain. And here, who is the permitted data entry person when the data is in this particular status? Whether all can enter, or only owner can enter, or only manager can enter, or data is locked for everyone. That is how system will define in this work status who is the person allowed to enter the data. You can save the status. Once you save the status, automatically system takes it as a last status. If you want to edit this, if you want the test should be going to before submitted, then you can reorder the work status. But all these things you have to do before you start the production workflow process. Once the data is there in the production system, you cannot, and it is not advised to use the reordering of the work statuses and all, because if you reorder, all the pre-existing logs will be opened because you are changing the order and sequence of the workflow. So that is why SAP suggests this should be done before going to the production. So like this, you can shift and reorder the work statuses. And if you don't want, you can delete it. If you want to edit, you can edit it. So I'm just deleting this. And here, whenever there is a change in the work status, like in SAP, we will receive a message in our SAP inbox. But here, BPC has allowed you to trigger the message directly to your Outlook, because SAP also linked with Microsoft, so that is why they are allowing the notification to directly send it to your mailbox, which is a very advantageous thing, because whenever we go to the client place, they will say that for my approval process daily I need to log in into the system, into my SAP system, and I need to go to my request and I have to check my manager approval required, and then only I can see what are all the approvals pending from me. Otherwise I will not see. I can see only in my SAP mail inbox, but not in directly. Through this, what is the advantage from the end user point of view is he will directly receive a email that your subordinate has submitted the data and the data has been submitted to you, so that a manager will receive message through Outlook. Once he clicks on that link, system will automatically take him to that particular page where the data is available, and he can see the data. If it is changes is required, he can change it, or he want to send it back, he can send it back. When he is sending back also, system will send an automatic email to the original owner that is stating that it has been rejected by your manager. So again he can make the changes and again he can submit the data. The main advantage here is, compared to your normal FI workflow, the integration of Outlook soft with BPC. So he will directly receive email messages into his email outbox, and from click of a button he can directly go and see the data. That is the most advantageous thing in this particular workflow with respect to BPC. When we are discussing with the clients are very happy with this kind of workflow system compared to their SAP workflow. So for that purpose, the notifications button we need to enable. Here there is something called activate email notifications. This needs to be activated, but in order to work these things, your client should have Outlook soft, and that Outlook soft should be linked to BPC system by your basis consultant. These two things should have happened first, and then once you activate, a mail will automatically trigger. These two are the basic requirements for this particular step, which is not for BPC consultant, but which is for the basis consultant to make the mapping of Outlook soft, client Outlook soft with BPC. And then the messages, we can enable it from the front end. Here the default message will be there. If you see here, the default message uses which user has changed the status. If you see, percentage user means which user, percentage status means from which status the data has moved to which status, and the time period and the region. Lock region is nothing but when we are locking the data, there will be a region of data will be locking at model level. So that region will also be displayed once we define the model level settings also. And if you want a specific message, you can define user defined messages also, that this process has been submitted and you can start working, all those things. Whatever you want to write, you can write it as a notification message apart from the message which is provided by SAP. And save. So whatever till now we have discussed is the work status we are defining at environment level, where we can add the work statuses according to our requirement. In each of the work state we can define who is the person who can change from this particular status to the next status. And in the permitted data entry methods, we are specifying once the data is in this particular state, who is the person that can be allowed to alter the data. So these two are very important when you are defining the new work status, and you can delete it and you can edit it and you can enable the notification section. The second part is for each model, because as I said, work status is not simply a workflow but also a locking of the data, which is BPC specific thing. So for that purpose we need to do locking at model level. In order to activate the locking, if you go and see here, you go to the models, go to training underscore plan. Now if you see here, the work status is showing off because we have not enabled at the model level. Once we make the enabling at model level, system automatically turns it on as on. Previously in 7.5 we have to manually go to the backend BW system, and there is one code we need to enable, work status enable, and then we need to select it as X so that it will get enabled. All those steps they have removed. From 10 onwards you can directly do it from here. Close. Now go to work status. Select your model which you want to bring it into work status. Press edit. Here there is a checkbox called enable data logging. Select this checkbox. Press save. Now go to the models and see whether it is enabled or not. Now if you see here, system automatically enables once you enable it from the work status section. Automatically the model features will get enabled. Now here, when I am enabling, here it is saying two things. One is owner dimension and another is other dimensions. First we will discuss owner dimension. In order to activate the work status, like in your FI system also, when you are enabling the workflow, there should be a hierarchy. So what is the first level, what is the second level, and what is the next level? Like that the hierarchy should be there, then only it will roll up from one level to next level to next level. The same procedure will follow in BPC also. There should be a hierarchy. So first thing is there should be a hierarchy in order to know what is first level, second level, third level, fourth level. And then where you have maintained your hierarchy, that dimension should be mentioned as owner dimension. Generally in BPC, when we are doing either planning or consolidation, generally it is at entity level. So generally we will take it as entity as the dimension, because entity will already have hierarchy and entity can take ownership also at each hierarchy node level. That is why in BPC 99% we will take entity as the dimension, as the owner dimension in work status. And there is no hard and fast rule that it should only be an entity dimension. Any dimension with hierarchy property can be taken as a dimension for owner. But 99% people use entity dimension because of its relevance in planning and consolidation. Now if you see the drop down, I have entity and product. Why entity and product are showing is because for this particular training mode, training underscore plan, both entity and product is having the hierarchies. That is why system is displaying both the dimensions. As I said, you can select any of the dimension. But for each product level, we don't have the owner, manager and all, because generally at each product level, we will not maintain this is the user has to submit for product A. Like that, we will not generally maintain the planning. Generally for one unit, we will maintain the planning, and then that needs to be submitted to the, suppose if we are having a in India, Singapore, both part of Asia Pacific. So Indian entity will submit their plan, Singapore entity will submit their plan, and it will automatically consolidated and sent to Asia Pacific manager. Generally the planning or consolidation will go in that flow only. That is why we use entity dimension. So that is how we use owner and hierarchy. And there is another thing called other dimensions. So when I am saying data locking by model, if I say that Suppose if I am submitting my data, Dinesh is having a question, can it be profit center or cost center? Yeah, as I said, Dinesh, there is no hard and fast rule that it should be only entity. I have given a basic example that it is generally at entity dimension level. Suppose if your planning is happening at a profit center level, then profit center will become. That's why I said system has provided that option. You can use it according to your requirement and the client requirement. And why we need to select other dimensions is because when I say the data locking, once the owner has submitted the data from unlocked status to submitted, then what happens? The entity level lock happens. Suppose if I am saying my entity India, I have unlocked to submitted, I have submitted my data. Then what happens is, for all the periods, for all the categories, the locking will happen. That should not be the case. Because when we are locking the data, we are locking it for a particular period. Only for this particular planning period or for this consolidation period only we are locking. Not locking for the entire year or entire periods. So that is why in our locking area, along with entity, we need to have time reference also. Because when I am locking, I will lock for this particular entity for this particular time period, because time is most important thing. Otherwise it will lock for next 100 years also, which should not be the correct procedure. And why we use category is in BPC, whenever we are working in BPC, generally we will have planned data, actual data, forecasted data, budget data. So there are so many kinds of data that will be available. So if I say that only planned data should, if I say that for India entity time period 2015 lock should happen, and I am not allowed to do the forecasting. So I am locking the entire data. So where I am doing only budgeting process, I am locking the forecasting period also, which should not be the correct way. So that is why SAP recommends along with entity, you keep other two dimensions as mandatory in order to do the data locking. One is time and another is category. Apart from these two, you can maintain any other additional two dimensions into the locking process. That is according to your requirement and your client requirement. BPC says out of 5 dimensions, one should be with owner dimension that have hierarchy property defined. Out of another 4, 2 are mandatory and 2 are optional. The other 2 you can define as per your requirement for locking. Suppose you are locking that data by product also, then you use product also as a part of your locking system, so that for that particular entity, for that category, for that time period, for that product only the data locking happened. So this is with respect to the data locking which we are enabling at model level. So a combination of workflow with locking facility at model level is called WorkStatus in BPC system. Now we defined how the customization needs to be done. So in our customization, everywhere we are saying the owner and manager. Here also we are saying owner can enter the data. But where we will maintain, as discussed, the owner dimension, we will maintain the property in this particular dimension only, because all our these things, owner and manager fields, will be taking the data from this particular dimension which we are defining at model level. So in model dimension, whatever you have chosen as owner dimension, that dimension should have owner property defined. That is a mandatory thing which we need to do in order to work on the work status. So we should have owner property. Now here, I am having my user ID, Krishna user ID, as a owner property for Australia and China. And if you see here, there is a Asia Pacific which is having owner as Sai. And we have not maintained manager property at all. But in our customizations everywhere we are saying owner and manager. How will system know who is the manager and who is the owner when we are maintaining only one property? So for that purpose, that is why we said system always takes the hierarchy nodes. Now if you see here, for Australia, the hierarchy node is Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific. For China, Asia Pacific. So Asia Pacific is the top node, which is the hierarchy node. So for Asia Pacific, who is the owner? Sai. So for SAP says the manager level, the manager is nothing but owner of parent. Owner of parent member. So that is how system defines the work status in BPC system. That is why SAP says always the hierarchy is mandatory. And if you see here, for Australia region, the manager is Sai. How it is taking? For Australia region, system is checking what is the hierarchy level node. For this hierarchy level node, system will check who is the owner. Automatically that person will become the manager. So manager is nothing but owner of the parent member. So in BPC for work status we will use only the owner property. Manager will be a derived field based on the hierarchy we are maintaining and hierarchy level owner we are maintaining. No, Kamlesh. Owner entry is always a user ID. Otherwise, how the system knows who is the user? If you give some X name, how the system knows he is the person who is managing this particular entity? Yeah. When you created it might taken any name, but when you go to the work status, it will not work at all. It will not give you any warning, it will not give you anything. But as a consultant, you have to create it as such you are taking a valid members. System will not stop you. You have to be careful. Dinesh is having a question, can there be more than one manager? Yeah, if you are having more than one manager, give the team name, not the individual name. So this owner property where we need to maintain which one is selected as owner dimension, and the parent level owner will become the manager for the base members under that. So this is with respect to the work status configuration point of view, how we need to consider the work status and how we need to activate the notifications and how we need to activate the data logging facility. So if you have any doubts, please let me know so that we will see one demo kind of a thing on the work status so that it will give much more clarity than what we are having at present. I'll just log in and see who is the manager ID. Sai is the manager ID. Yes, what is the password? Okay. So we will log in into the Excel in order to see how this work status will work. We can see it through any of these data loads methods, but we are using the Excel because understanding will be much easy through Excel. I think it's struck up. Just log off. Okay, log in into any of the template. So we'll make a template where we can enter some data and see. When we are discussing, we have not discussed EPM work status, which I said I will discuss when we are discussing on the work status section. So there is something called EPM work status. So connection name system will take. So 0 will give you the status, 1 will give you the user, and 2 will give the time. So we want status. So I am using 0. Based on which member I want the status. Based on category, and then based on time period, and based on entity. So these are the 3 parameters with which I want to see the work status. Maintain the formula. Yes, okay. And refresh. See, the present work status is in the unlocked status. Now, if you see here, in this template, I am clearly showing with which user ID I have logged in and what is the present status for different months. Because I wanted to show you when we are locking only section of the data, not the entire data. So you can create and save it for your references. Now for actual, for Germany and for January 2000 period, the status is unlocked. Now I'll put some value and then I logged in with user ID Krishna, which is nothing but the owner user in the entity dimension. So with Krishna I logged in into Australia and China. I will take Australia or China because I have created master data only for Australia and China. So I will take Australia. Which is getting rolled up to Asia Pacific region. Now I'll enter the data as a owner. We'll take scenario 1. In scenario 1, the owner is entering the data and saving the data. As we said in the work status, in the first status, which is in the unlocked status, in the unlocked status, both owner and manager can enter the data. All means anybody can enter the permitted data entry by both owner and manager. All means. So that is why in the first status, when I logged in with user ID owner, I am able to successfully enter the data and save the data also. Now, how I can change the status from unlocked to submitted. Under save button, there is small arrow is there. You click on that arrow. you have change work status. Now if you see here, system is showing Australia entity actual Q1 2013. Whenever the locking is happening, it is locking on the base members only, not on the top node. That is why we need to select which month we want to lock. So I am locking January data. So what I am doing, if you see, current status is in the unlocked status. As a owner, which I am allowed to do, I can only submit the data. So when I log in with my user ID, I only see submit status. I will not see the other statuses. If you have multiple owner statuses, then it will show you multiple owner statuses. Now if you see the drop down, I can only submit the data. I cannot do anything because I have logged in with owner status. Submit and press apply. So now the status has been changed to the submitted status. Press OK. Now you come here and refresh. January month only will be the submitted data. See, January is only submitted. Other months is in unlocked status. Now you go back to your customization. Once the data is in the submitted status, the data is in submitted status. The permitted data entry by manager only. In our example, manager is Sai. So the permitted data entry is by manager. That is why if you try to enter some data or modify the existing data, system will throw up an error because you are not authorized to do the changes after you submitted the data. See, error in checking work status because the data is submitted from owner user ID cannot be able to modify the data because of our customization where we are saying permitted by only manager when the data is in the submitted status. Now if you see here, for February it is in the unlocked status. Now you can enter the data in February and you can save the data because for February we have not changed the data to the submitted status. See, February data is allowing me to save the data because it is in the unlocked status. So what we did, we have entered the data and we changed the data element or work status to submitted, where the owner is not allowed to edit once the data is in the submitted status. Now we will log off from this and we will log in with the manager user ID. Dinesh is having question, can manager? Dinesh, please wait, Dinesh. Once we complete the cycle, then if you have any questions, then you ask, because we have just completed the owner section only. So I'll be logging it, manager user ID. Now I logged in with the manager user ID, that is Sai. Here we are not able to see the email notifications because we have not connected it to the Outlook soft. Otherwise, you can see the notifications when we are changing the status in the live environment. Now if you come here and refresh, system will show with which user ID you logged in and what is the current status. So now I logged in with SI, which is the manager user ID, and January data is in the submitted status. Now I will try to edit the data and see system will allow me to edit the data, because when the data is in the submitted status, manager is allowed to do the changes. Now see, the data has been saved. Why? Because in this particular customization, what we have done, when the data is in the submitted status, manager is allowed to do the data entry for the manual. That is why it is allowing us to do the changes when I logged in with manager user ID. Now, once the manager is also satisfied, he can approve the data. So, go to save data, change work status. Here also we are taking January period. Current status is in the submitted status. So if you see manager point of view, what is the statuses he is allowed? He is allowed only two statuses. One is unlocked status where manager is there, and another is approved status. So when he logs in, he can see only this and this. When owner logs in, he can see this and this. Now, if you see the new status, he can approve the data. Press approve and press apply. Now the status has been changed to approved for January. Now come here and refresh. System will change the status to approved. Now see, the data is in the approved status. Now, as per our configuration, when the data is in the approved status, for manual entry, the data entry should be locked. That means even the manager cannot enter the data once the data is in the approved status. Now go back. Now try to edit the data. Enter new data and try to save the data from the manager login ID. See, error checking in work status. Why? When the data is in the approved status, even the manager is not allowed to do the changes. If he has to make the changes, what he has to do? He has to make the data from first approved statuses to again to what state he has to bring? He has to bring it into the unlocked status. Here we are having only 3 statuses. If you are having 10 statuses, what is the previous work state? He can change it to that work state. So first I have to make it to unlocked status. Press apply. The data is in unlocked status. Now come here, and refresh. Now see, the data is in the unlocked status. When the data is in the unlocked status, either the owner can enter the data and submit it, or the manager also can enter the data. First scenario we have seen, when the data is in the unlocked status, with owner user ID we logged in and we submitted, and from there it is approved by manager. That is the normal scenario. When he want to make the changes once the data is approved, the manager has to first unlock the data. Once the data is in the unlocked state, again the same process will follow. The owner can enter and then submit, and then it will be approved by manager. That is scenario 1. Scenario 2, what we discussed, the manager also can be able to enter the data, because in the first status, both owner and manager can enter the data. So when the manager himself changes the data in the unlocked status, now what we are doing, either the same scenario which we have expressed previously, we can follow the same process, or second process, the manager is also entitled to enter the data in the unlocked status. We are following the second scenario. Now save the data. Because in the unlocked status, manager is allowed to save the data. That is why system is allowing to save the data. See, system has saved the data. Now, if you see the work status, change work status. From unlocked status, we need not go to the submitted status again, because submitted status is by the owner. From unlocked status, directly manager can go to the approved status. That means he can skip the owner step wherever it is there. So manager can directly jump to the next step where the manager is available. So that is why here in this scenario, we need not submit the data by the owner. We can directly make the data to the approved status without asking the owner to again submit, again do the changes, because it will take a lot of time. Now see, the data is in the approved status. Now even the manager is not allowed to do the changes. See, now error in checking work status. So this is how we can follow. We can follow the scenario 1, like owner again can submit the data, and again manager can approve the data from the unlocked status once it is approved and unlocked by the manager. Or manager can unlock the data and directly he can approve the data. That is also a scenario. As we discussed, we can capture these changes in the audit section, because whenever the approved data is again unlocked, the manager is responsible to answer the audit questions, because he has to explain why once the data is approved by the board, why again you have allowed the changes to happen. All these things will be part of your normal audit, either it's an internal audit, transfer pricing audit, or external audit, whatever might be the audit, or government audit, whatever it might be. So what is our model name? Training model. So I'm selecting all members of category and time. Press display report. Now see, the present status will be shown for this particular section of data. What is the present status and who has changed the present status, that will be displayed here. That is through audit of the work status we can get. Whichever is the latest changes. So this is with respect to the work status with locking capability also, because when we are changing the status from one state to another state, like unlocked to submitted, the submitted status persons who are responsible will be getting the data locked for them. So only the next reviewer will be having authorization to change the data, not the persons from whom the data is getting originated. And here when we are doing the locking, we are doing at individual month level. But when a management perspective, when I am handling say 30 departments, I cannot say that for each month for 30 departments, 30 into 12, 360 times I will go and approve the things, which is impossible for me to check and do the selection and work on as a manager. So for those purposes, SAP has given change work status. Now see Q1 and Q2, now February and March is also in the unlocked status. Now I can directly select Q1, but when you are selecting here, the current status will show none, because some are having approved status, some are having unlocked status. So that is why system will not show here, but through your formula EPM work status you can depict it here. So what I am doing, I am making it as approved for entire Q1. Now come here and refresh. Now see Q1, Q2, Q3 also, Jan, Feb, March also got approved. Like that, I can do the approval either at month level or also at quarter level also I can do that. But if you are selecting a top node, system will show none in the current status through here. But at line item level, you can put your input template like this so that user will be notified what is the status for each of the month with respect to entity and then the category, because our locking is based on entity and category. Now if you change the entity to China, in China the status is unlocked because we are locking only the Australian region. Now see, when it comes to China, it is in the unlocked status. Why? Only we locked Australia region when we are working, not the China region. So the locking always happens at category and then entity and then time period. Now you take Australia region. Australia region and refresh. For actual category, we locked the data. Now you select instead of actual, you select plan, system will automatically show you the status as unlocked. See, the data is in the unlocked status. So whenever we are locking with category, entity and time dimension combination of data. Dinesh is having a question. Can manager change the status from submitted to unlocked? I think I have answered your question, Dinesh. Kamlesh is having a question. Can work status be set at member property level? No, Kamlesh. When we are discussing the locking, we clearly said that it is at dimension level. If you want account level also, in the other two balance dimensions, you maintain the account, but it will be a cumbersome job. No client will agree for that kind of a procedure, because for each of the section of the accounts, again you need to do the locking. So this is with respect to the work status in the BPC system along with the locking. When it is linked to the notification, it will be very useful feature for the client when he is working in either planning or consolidation phase. View is having a question. Can we use work status to protect actual data from any change? View, when we are bringing the actual data itself, when we bring into the BPC system, we always says that whenever the actual data is coming, the locking will happen. Even in your Excel templates, when you do the forecasting templates with certain months as actual and certain months as forecast, we are already locking the actual data. Not through work status we'll lock through the template itself, the actual data. But when it comes to consolidation, generally we work always on the actual data. We always say that actual data will be locked through work status. But with respect to planning, it is always through input template level we will lock the actual data. When it comes to consolidation, because we are working always on the actual data in consolidation, we will lock through work status. So that is the difference between planning and consolidation. Any other question? Then we will discuss on the security part. Before going to the security part, we'll take a quick break for 5 minutes and then we will resume back and we will discuss on the security part. Okay. We'll exactly resume in 5 minutes. Now it is, yeah, we can resume in 5 to 6 minutes max. Okay. Thank you. Hi everyone, is it audible? Okay, can we start? Okay, thank you. So in BPC, as we are discussing, we are left out with a few topics with respect to which is applicable for both planning and consolidation. Out of that, security is one of the things. For BPC security, the security section, the security will be maintained by the BPC user only, not by the, so BPC user means BPC consultant only, not by the basis consultants. Unlike others, where the roles and authorizations will be provided by the basis, here the roles, team, task profile, data related access and all will be provided by the BPC consultant itself. So in BPC, how the security works is, users will be created by the basis consultant, and when he is creating the users, if it is a SAP licensed user, SAP will provide two basic roles and profiles and two profiles, which is required to create a basic BPC user from the basis consultant. This is the basis consultant job. And once we have the authorized user from SAP BPC user, users will be created by the basis consultant in the PW system. Once the users are created, we need to add those users to BPC system. So the created users from the backend by the basis will be adding it into the BPC system, and from there teams can be created. There are two things in BPC. One is task profile, another is data access profile. Here it is very simple in BPC. Task profile means what task he can handle. Like if we give input data, then only he can able to work on the input templates. Otherwise he can just view the reports. Suppose I am creating a data manager package, right? Consolidation. If we are not giving the authorization at task level to run the consolidation, he cannot run the consolidation at all. And another is data access profile, which is a subset of task profile. That means data access can be at data level, which is defined at model level. So when I am saying my entity Australia only allowed to enter the data, for China, for Germany, it is only view access. These will be controlled by data access profile. So once I have the task related access to save the data in the input templates, when I am having the task profile, whether I am able to save the data for all the entities or only to a certain entities, that will be decided by data access profile. So task profile is always at a higher level, which task is allowed to perform. Within that data level, what are all the things, even though he is having task access, what are all the restriction at the data level, which entity he can have save data facility or write facility, which he can only view, which it is only a read-only facility, that will be decided by data access profile. Task profile, we cannot see the demo because for this purpose we need to have licensed SAP BPC user, then only we can see the task profile related demo. Because as I said, once SAP provides the two basic roles and profiles, whatever we are creating from the task profile, it will be automatically added as a role in the backend system once it is a licensed user. Since we are using the IDA system, we will always use SAP all, so that even though if you provide any task profile, it will overwrite with SAP all access. So that is why we are not able to check the task profile related demo, but we will see how to create a task profile and how to add tasks to a task profile and all, and how to assign the task profile to user, team and all. Data access profile, we can see the demo because we are locking the data at the model level, which we can able to see. But this is the one which we cannot able to see, but we'll see how to create and how to assign. All those things we can see, but we cannot control the access because we are having SAP all authorization. So when it comes to access, in BPC we call it as matrix access, where we have users and teams. Generally, wherever we go to the client base, we always suggest access should always be provided at team level, because now the user X will be there in the company. Later on, X will be replaced with Y once he leaves the job. So always we suggest it is not by user specific, it is based on the team. So generally we ask the management to create the teams and assign task profile and data access profile to the teams. Task profile and data access profile. So when I am having in team A, say I am having 1, 2, 3 users. Suppose team A is having task profile 1, which I have created, and data access profile 1, which I have created. So these 3 users will automatically get these task profiles as an inherited task profile because they are part of this team. Apart from these inherited task profile, we can add additional task profile to the individual users. Why we will do like this is, generally sometimes what happens is, suppose take a scenario where you are having finance team. So finance team is doing all the budgeting and everything, but with respect to cash flow generation, it is only done by the senior manager finance. So when he is part of the finance team, he will get the access profile to enter budget, save budgets, all those things. Along with that, as a senior manager, he want to have one additional thing to enter in the cash flow level also. So we'll create a separate access profile and assign that access profile to only the individual senior manager user. So then what he will get? He will get the inherited task from the team access and additional access from the user point of view. Like that, we will get team related access as well as the individual access also in the BPC system. We will see how to create these things and work on these things so that it will be easy to understand. Now go to the security. Users. See, these are the users they have created in the backend system. Now go to add user. Now if you see here, these are the users that are there in my BW system. Unless these users are available in my BW, which are created by basis consultant, I cannot add them to this particular model or environment. So when I am talking about users creation, teams creation, users, teams, task profile, these 3 things we call it at client level, which is nothing but environment level. When we call it as data access profile, it is at individual model level. So these settings you need to remember. One is at client level, the first 3, and the last one is at model level. So in order to have that user, he should be part of a BW user created by basis team with proper rights. Now if you want to add, you can add this. Next. If you want to assign it to a team directly, you can assign it when you are adding it as an user, or else you can add it later on also to any particular team. See, once you created, I created and added MP as my user. Now if you see, that user has been created and added to this particular environment. Now next is teams. We can create teams. Say team 1. So I am giving Sai. These two I am keeping it in one team. Okay. Okay, like that we can create the teams, but here I don't know, due to some issues it is not able to create the team. But in live environment you can create teams, adding the members who are part of the teams and all. Okay. And then next is task profile. As I said, we can create task profile and we can add this task profile to the teams as well as the individual users. Suppose we create task profile 1. So I'll just create. See, when I am creating this task profile, system will display all the available tasks in the BPC system. So these are the available tasks in the BPC system. So with this, what task you want to assign it to the client, this particular team, you have to give that authorizations to this particular team. If you want to give all the section, you can select the section and then you can add. Suppose in this administration, I am giving only manage models, manage environments. See, system will show out of 15 only 2 has been given. And if you see here in the available task, it will show 13 out of 15 is available. Only 2 has been given. Like this, each section, administration section, analysis and connection, business process flows, comments, consolidations, data manager, system reports, security, web reporting, web service, all these tasks, like suppose if I am taking data manager, which we have discussed. So if you want to give admin packages run, access, edit packages, where we can go and edit the packages in our edit section. When we are doing the edit packages, we can create our packages and we can customize our packages. When we are discussing on the logic part, we will discuss how to edit the packages. So transformation files, conversion files, all those things, run packages, download data, view data, upload data, whatever we have discussed, all those topics will be there as a task in the BPC system. So if you want to provide the task access, you have to select it and then you have to provide the task access. When we are giving it to the client, because client doesn't know what are all the available tasks and all, so what we have to do is, when we want to have the matrix from the client, we have to provide task name and what each task does. Like this, we need to provide information for each of the tasks available in the BPC system. Then when client says, Mitesh, I am giving the example only, so I cannot share project specific templates. I am giving the glance of the template. Okay, so like this, we'll be defining all the tasks and the name of the task, like data manager edit packages, what that package does. Once we provide with serial number and then the task and what each task does, what client will do is, client will say, create a task profile 1, task profile 2 and task profile 3, like this. For task profile 1, give 1, 2, 4, and for this 5, 7, 13. Like this, he will put serial numbers which he want to give the access. Based on that, you will create the task profiles. This is the task profile screen which we need to maintain when we are giving it to the client. So client will see through the task available and you have to sit with the client as a solution architect and you have to explain what each task will do. Because once we know the customization part, we also know what each task does. Based on that, we need to explain it to the client. Client super user who is providing the roles will provide like this and give it to you. So you can create task profile 1, 2, 3, 4 and assign the task which is relevant for this particular profile. That is how we'll create the task profiles in the BPC system. Now we created the task profile and then we created users, we created teams and we created task profiles. So if you want to find out what each task does and all, See, these are the tasks that are available in the system secondary and primary administrator, but you can find out all the tasks that are available here. In this security guide, if you see here, they have given the list of tasks and also what each task does. You can just copy and paste it from there and you can give it to your client. But you have to explain it what each task does. But this link will provide you the details. Now next thing is data access profiles. So when we said first three things, users, teams and task profiles is at client level, which is at environment level. When we talk about data access profiles, it is always at model level. So in order to have at model level, we need to have configuration also to be done at model level. When I say data access profile, because I am having in this particular model 5 dimensions are there or 6 dimensions are there. Out of 6 dimension, at which data level I want to access or give the access rights to the users. It is similar to WorkStatus where we are specifying entity, category and time dimension level, we are locking the data. Similarly, when we are providing security also, we have to provide security based on the dimensions only. So we have to define which dimensions we are going to take into the security process. This all depends upon the client requirement, on what basis the present security is happening and how he want to secure the data. Based on that, we have to recommend which of the dimension generally will be taken into security. Then client will take a decision what dimension should be part of the security access. So where we will maintain that? We have to go to the model. Go to models. Suppose we are creating for training underscore plan. Here there is section called secured. This means which dimensions you want to bring it into the security arena. Those dimensions you have to select as secured dimensions. Now if you go to the data access profile, since none of the dimensions are secured, if you go here, Now go to models. So as we discussed, training underscore plan. There is no secure dimension. When you see it in the data access profile through security, data access profile. When you create new, if you see here full or unsecured model, and training underscore plan, it is showing unsecured model. Once you make it as secured, system will show as none. Unless you provide a security, you cannot log in into that particular model in order to work on that particular model. Now we'll just make it as secured and we'll see how it will work. Come here. So I'm saying I want to create a security based on the entity and based on the category, based on the entity and based on the product. So I want for this entity, for this product, you are allowed to enter the data. Just give me a minute. So we are securing entity and product. And when we are securing dimensions, it is according to your client requirement, you can secure. Now save. Now what this model, training underscore plan, has become a secured model. Now you come here into this screen. Previously it is showing unsecured model. Now close this and create again. It will show secured. None has been. See, it will show none. What is none means you have not provided any security here. See, here you have not provided any security. That is why it is showing none of the security has been provided. Previously it is showing unsecured. Once you made this model as secured, system will automatically make it as secured model where you can create your data access profile. Now since I have not provided any access to any of the members, I'll just close this. If I try to enter into the same model like training underscore plan, which I am working on previously also, now try to log in into the same model. System will not allow you to log in. Now if you see training underscore plan, see the error message, invalid model. Why? Because we made it as secured and we have not provided any security access at all to this particular user ID. So that is why it is showing invalid model. Now we will provide a security and we will see how it will work. Okay. Now come to data access profile. So I'll just create it as DAP. When I am providing security, I can provide 1 minute. When I am providing security, I can provide the security at member level, and I am having 3 rights. One is write access, another is read-only access, and third is denied access. Write access is simple, where you can save the data and also view the data. Read-only means you can only view the data. You cannot enter the data and post the values. And denied access means you cannot see the member at all. If you are giving write access and read-only access, and if you are not giving any other access, by default system will take it as a denied access only, and it will not show you when you log in into the Excel also. When you select the dimension members, it will not display at all. But why we need to specifically provide denied access? When we select some access, some members as read-only and some members as write access, why we need to specifically select denied access, we will discuss separately. So I'll select write access to certain members and read access to certain members. I can select all members, or if you want to select few members, you can select it from the select list. Now, when we are selecting, we always suggest as a consultant to provide access at the node level. Why we suggest is, if we keep on creating access at individual member level, if suppose any new member has been added to that particular node, then you have to go and change the entire security model, and you have to add that particular member in all those data access profiles you have created. Because we are working in test system, so we are creating 1 or 2 things. But if you imagine a live environment where you might have created some 40, 50 data access profiles across the multiple organization, then to add that particular new entry to all these profiles will be a cumbersome job. So always what we suggest is create the security at the hierarchy level, so that whenever a new member is added, automatically whatever is the hierarchy access, that will be automatically taken into that consideration. That is why we always suggest take the security at the hierarchy level and try to maintain, wherever it is not required, to maintain read-only access or denied access separately. Now I will provide Asia Pacific access as write access. Say Africa, only DZ and ZA. I'll provide. I'll show, because in order to show you, when I select at top node level, when I select at individual members instead of top members, here what I am doing, DZ and ZA, I am selecting the individual members. I am not selecting the node here. In Africa, I selected members, DZ and ZA. What will be the consequences? We'll see. And I provide read-only. As I said, if you provide write access and read-only access, all other will be automatically a denied access by default. Now, for products also, I need to specify members for which I have write access, I have denied access through this access profile. Now go to members. Say I am saying product A, write access, and product B, we are having read-only access. Mitesh is having question. In security profile, can we transport from DQP? Mitesh, when we are talking about the transportation part, I will discuss in detail how it will move the transports. There is a separate section called transports. In that I will discuss clearly. So product A and product B, I am taking one as write access and one as read only. So product C is automatically denied access. So I am saving the access profile. Now if you see, automatically it is showing restricted access. Previously it is showing none access. Now it became as a restricted access. Why? Because we are restricting it with certain members. I'll come here. In security, we have created users, we have created teams, task profiles, and data access profiles. As we discussed, we can assign task profiles and data access profiles to teams as well as individual users also if there is any special requirement. Now we will add that to team access. So how to add it? Go to the team. These are the users that have been part of admin team. If you want to add or remove any of the names, you can select and you can remove those names, whichever you don't want. Or if you want to add, you can add it. And then task profiles and then data access profiles. So for our example, we are having task profiles primary, admin, secondary, all, and December. Data access profiles, we are having admin and DAP December. We have created DAP1, which we have not assigned to the admin team. If you want to add, you can use the add button and you can add the new things. Now close. Now go to the individual user. Now I have created, say, Rudra as a user. He is not part of any team and he doesn't have any inherited access from the teams or anything from the data access profile. In order to make him as a part of the team, I can use add or remove, add to the admin. Once I add his name to the admin, then automatically task profiles will be inherited to this user once I save this. Now come here. See, inherited team access will be automatically taken and then data access also will be inherited access. If you want to add any other access apart from the team access, you can use add or remove button. For this user, we are adding DAP1 also, which we created as a special access. So like this, each individual user will get his team access once he added into the team, both task profiles and data access profiles, which has been added to the team. Apart from that, if you want to give any additional access, any task profile or a data access profile, you can provide it to the individual user where the team will not be involved in this particular access. Now you can save. So like this, we can users can be created using add, and teams can be assigned with access, the task profiles and data access profiles which you created. And apart from the team access which is inherited, each user can also have task profiles and data access profiles attached to his user ID. Since we are working on the Krishna user, we will attach this task profile, data access profile which we created to Krishna user ID. Now we have created DAP1, which I will add to Krishna user ID so that he can log in into the system. Previously he was not able to log in. So as I said, task profile we cannot able to see the demo. We cannot restrict only these tasks he can perform and all, because SAP all access. Data access profile which we have created and we have added to our user ID Krishna, we will log in and see how the system will work when we create the data access profile and all. So we have worked on users, teams, task profiles and data access profiles. So when we give the matrix to the end user, how our Excel sheet will be, one sheet will be users and teams creation, and next sheet will be assignment of users to teams. Say user 1, 2, 3 will be part of team A. So 4, 5 will be part of team B. Like that we need to provide the assignments, and then task profiles 2, 3, 4, and then task name and the task description. Task description side by side you provide task profile 1, task profile 2, task profile 3, and what are all the access. Similarly, data access profiles. So DAP1. In this we are providing what security? Dimension wise security. So in this we have to specify what dimensions. Entity dimension and product dimension. So here they want to give Asia Pacific access and Africa DZ and SA, like this. They will provide the members which they want to provide. So product A. So in each column we will have for entity what should be write access and read only access. Sometimes if you want to specifically mention any denied access, what is the denied access? So these columns will be given for each of the model and each of the dimension part of the security. So they will specify what members will fall into this. Like this you will create DAPs. So in teams, so here there will be team A, team B. So for him TP1, TP2, DAP1, DAP2, like this we will provide. If there is any special access that is required for the user, we will provide. This guy requires TP4 separately, DAP4. So along with the team A access, which is inherited from the team access, individual access we will provide separately at the user list level. So like this, we'll prepare one matrix and we will give it to the user. Based on that matrix, we will be preparing the security in the VPC system. Okay. So till now, if you have any doubts, please let me know so that I'll answer, and then we'll go to the demo how the system will look like when we provide the security. Okay. Then we'll go into the demo and we'll see. Previously, when I logged in, I am not able to log in into the training_plan model at all. Now I will try to log in into training_plan. Now system will not throw me error because I am already having access to this particular model using DAP1. Now see, I am able to log in into this particular thing because I am already having the access. So I'll open one template in order to see how the system will work. So we'll take the same template, WorkStatus. Okay. So if you remember, we have provided security on two things. One is entity and another is product. Entity level, I clearly said DZZA, and other thing I said Asia Pacific, which I selected top node. What is the advantage of selecting top node? I will show you. So when I select entity, select members. Now if you see, I will not be able to see other members at all. If I select top node, what is the advantage is I can see the base members also. That means when I go to the reporting part, I cannot able to see Asia Pac, what is the total. Sorry, South Africa and Africa, which is Africa part, I cannot see the total. I can see only the individual members. When I want to see a report with Africa total, I cannot see because I don't have access at the top node level. That is why SAP always recommends to provide access at the top node and restrict anything with the least restricted access concept. That we will see in the next scenario. Now you can able to see Asia Pacific, under that Australia and China, and then DZ and ZA. When it comes to product, we are given only A and B access, not the C. That is why it is not showing the C. As I said, whatever access we are providing here, it is only read only or write only, those will be shown in your template or wherever you log in into the BPC system once we provide security. And other members is automatically a denied access. But why we use a denied as a separate thing, I'll show you in my next scenario. So in the first scenario for Australia, if it is product B, so when I am providing security, I said Australia, Asia Pac is the right access. And what I said, in Asia Pac, product A only, write only, product B is read only. So even though I am having Australia related access as write access, since I selected product B, which is having read only access, system will throw me an error because both the combinations needs to be met. This is something like our validations. When we have multiple combination of validations, both the validation rules should be satisfied, then only we can save the data. This is similar to that concept. Now see, invalid member product B, because product B as per our thing, security access, it should be read only access. You cannot enter the data, only you can view the data. So if it is product A, and refresh. Now both the conditions are satisfied. My entity is also having write access and product is also having write access. Then I can save the data. Now try to save data. Okay, we are having validations. So I'll just select this as actual. Okay, we'll take a different period. Give me a minute, I'll remove the validations. Now see, both conditions are satisfied. It is saving the data. Now if I make the entity as ZA, which is read-only access. Now try to input some data. And save. Now see, entity ZA is an invalid member because one is read-only access. So in BPC, when we talk about data access, it is always the rule is least restrictive access. That means when we have write access and read-only access. That means one member, say scenario 1. Scenario 1, I am having dimension 1 with write access and the combination dimension member is read-only access. Read-only access. Then least restrictive access. That is read-only. I cannot enter the data. Scenario 2, which we are going to discuss. I am having dimension 1 top node write access and base member read-only access. So even though I am having top node as a write access and base member is only read-only access, then least restrictive access, that is read-only. So for that base member, even though top node is having write access, you cannot enter the data. That we will see by changing this condition. Okay, what we will do? In Asia Pac, that is top node, I am having write access. Select member. I will select China, put read only. Save. Come here. Now select China. Now try to enter some data. See, invalid member China. Previously I am able to enter and save the data in China also, but I am not able to do it now because in China I have provided as read-only access and I'll select it as Australia, which is write-only access because at top node I am having write-only. I'll put some value. Here system should allow me to save because at top node I am having write access and I have not specifically defined any access for Australia. So it is automatically the top node access will prevail. See, so wherever there is a conflict of access, then whatever is the least restrictive access, that will prevail. That is what we have discussed in the scenario 2. Scenario 3 is usage of denied access. As we said, SAP always suggests give the access at top node. Here we don't have so many members as a base members, so it is easy for us to define the security. Suppose we are defining security at product level also, where my company is having say 500 products. So in one hierarchy there are 40 products are there. Out of 40 products, 20 are read-only, 20 as write access, 10 as read-only access, and 10 should not be shown to the end user for this particular team at all. Then what I need to do, I cannot individually select 20 members as write access and 10 members as read-only access, because it will restrict my purpose, and also whenever there is a new entry I cannot easily identify through customization. So what I will do, I will select top node as a write access. Only these 10 items which is denied access, I will select it as 10 items and I will select it as denied. So what it will help me is, within the hierarchy, when there is write access or read-only access and then denied access is there, then least restrictive access is denied access. So suppose top node I am having write access, and base member I am having denied access. Then least restrictive access is followed, that is denied. That means even though in my hierarchy I am having write access, I will not be able to see the member at all when I give denied access. So whenever I am specifying write access and read-only access, only that will be displayed. Others is by default denied access. And where exactly denied access will be used? When I have a conflict need to be made, then I will use denied access. So go here. So in Asia Pacific I said CN as read-only. I will make it as denied so that it will not be visible at all, even though I am having Asia Pac write access. Save. Now come here. In order to take place, we need to log off and log in. Now if you see, in Asia Pacific I am having write access, and for Australia only it is displaying. China is not at all displaying. Previously when I selected read only it is displaying, now it is not at all displaying. That is where within the access you want to deny something to be displayed for the end user, you will use specifically denied. Otherwise by default it is denied. So Australia anyway I have write access, So I can use the write access and save the data. Okay, I have to select Australia. See, now it is saving. So our scenario 3 also least restrictive access, that is denied access. So in scenario 4, suppose top node is having read-only access. So out of read-only and denied, least restrictive is denied access. That is why it should display as denied only. Now we will go here and try to make this Asia Pacific as read-only access. And save. Even though read-only is there at Asia Pacific, China is denied access. So it will not allow me to see the China at all because least restrictive access will prevail. Now if you enter some data in entity Australia and try to save. See, entity Australia is invalid member because we made at Asia Pacific level read only and China as denied access. That is why least restrictive access is denied will be prevailed for China, which will not be shown, and Australia will be read only. Now if you see also, China will not be seen and Australia will become read only now. So those are the 4 scenarios out of which when there is a conflict between dimensions, then least restrictive actions. Within the dimension, then also least restrictive access. So whenever there is a conflict either between or inside the dimension, the least restrictive access will prevail with respect to data access profile. So this is with respect to the security part in BPC system, how we will handle the security and all. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Okay. Ganesh is having question, is there any standard role matrix sheet used for BPC? There will not be any standard role matrix, Ganesh. You have to prepare as a solution consultant the role matrix sheet and give it to the client. Mitesh is having question, can we connect BPC to GRC? Yes, Mitesh. GRC, through GRC you can connect to the BPC also. Hari is having a question. What is the T code for validation? Hari, we have discussed the validations in our earlier classes. It is UJ_validation. And any other doubt? Tomorrow we will discuss on the BPF topic. If time permits, then we will discuss on the we are left out with two main topics with respect to planning and consolidation. One is BPF, business process flows, and another is, that is very small topic because the usage is very limited with respect to the logic, the BPC logic and business process flow. These two things are left out with respect to what we call it as administration point of view, which can be used both in planning and consolidation. After these two topics, then we will discuss the consolidation specific topics. Consolidation, maximum 3 to 4 classes, Hari. Generally 3 to 4 classes because we are taking 2.5 hour classes. So probably 3 to 4. 4 you can call it as max. After that we will be having one more class for planning related demo where we will be seeing different models data connecting to a P&L model and what are all the considerations when we are working in planning we will consider, because consolidation is topic wise but when it comes to planning it is not topic wise, so we will discuss the planning demo. Mitesh is having a question. Can you keep tomorrow's class for 2 hours? Sure, Mitesh. Tomorrow we will cover business process flows, and in our next week class we will cover the script logic. Thank you, Hari. Yeah, thank you everyone for your appreciations and all. Yeah, it means a lot, which will help me to improve and also explain to others also. It will be great for us also to know the feedback. Okay, thank you everyone. Then we'll meet in our next class.